Good morning, everyone, and I welcome all the panelists. We have today a very interesting conversation going on, and I will introduce the panelists along with me. I'm Innocent Murthy. I am partner with PwC. I look after the smart cities business, and this current pandemic has given rise to a very important question of the governance. How during this pandemic we are managing the governance of the city or the state government for that matter, and taking it forward. It's not just this pandemic, but are we ready for future any other issues or challenges that the city is going to face? For this, I think we have a house full of panel. I'll introduce everyone briefly, and then we will start have a round of discussion. I have had the fortune of meeting and talking to almost everyone beforehand. So I'll start with the introductions. So Mr. Dr. Sangha, he's the Secretary Urban Development, Government of Mizoram. Good morning, sir. And the second panelist is Dr. Ashmi Singh, Additional Commissioner. She is part of North Delhi Municipal Corporation, and prior to that, she has done a lot of smart city work in NDMC area also. We have Mr. B.N. Pani, he is the Commissioner for Surat Municipal Corporation with us. Welcome, sir. We have Dr. Kajal, she is the Director, Urban Local Bodies, Government of Uttar Pradesh. And we have Mr. Raj Cherubal, he is the CEO, Chennai Smart City, doing extremely great, difficult, different work. We have Garima Mittalji, and she is the CEO of Faridabad Smart City. We have Mr. Chetan Nandani, Deputy Commissioner, Rajkot. And we have Srinivas, who is the General Manager, KUDFC. With us, we also have Amit Nathani, who's the Director for Government Sales for Microfocus. So I welcome everyone on this panel. This is a virtual platform. We are going to discuss, debate everything. So the first question is, it's more about experiential learning. So what has been the experiential learning and your point of view of how technology in general and integrated command and control centers, which have been the cornerstone of all the smart cities and for the state going states in most of places, has been utilized and repurposed to handle this pandemic situation, both during the lockdown and currently and going forward also. So I'll throw open this question. So I'll go one by one on this thing. Dr. Sangha, can I actually start with how Mizoram is taking forward using technology to drive and answer this pandemic situation?
Very good evening, Mr. Murthy, and also our other co-panelists. I think during the current COVID-19 pandemic, technologies are playing a very, very crucial role in keeping our society and government functional, both in time of lockdowns and quarantines. And I think these technologies will have a long-lasting impact even beyond COVID-19. In fact, I think COVID-19 pandemic is forcing government and society to turn towards digital technologies to respond to the crisis. In Mizoram, we do have the dashboard, not only for the Smart City Aizawl, but covering the whole state on a GIS platform, developed jointly by Aizawl Smart City Limited and also MIRSAT, Mizoram Remote Sensing Application Center, which is also under my other department, Science and Technology. So this platform gives all sort of decision support information required regarding health facilities across the whole states. Another critical information like supply essential commodities, etc. All with the geo tracking facilities and also real-time facilities where you can easily locate from where you are, and also quarantine facilities. In Mizoram, the unique case is that we have three kind of quarantine facilities. One is institutional quarantine facilities developed by government. Another one is community quarantine facilities developed by a community in most of the localities. And we have also home quarantine with all standard, different standard operating procedures. And we have solid waste management standard operating procedures in all towns and villages, which we'll have to follow. That will also focus on safety of people who are actually in quarantine, people who are outside of quarantine facilities, and people who are working as sanitary workers. So we have all SOP that has to be actually managed through one single platform, which we call it COVID-19 dashboard for the whole state. So this technology is actually making service delivery at our cities and towns and also villages across whole state, and also supply chain development. I think if this technology is not there, all this platform for delivering services will not be possible at all. I think that is whole reason why I said in the beginning, technologies will have a very long-lasting impact even beyond COVID-19. And navigating through these challenging times required government to adopt an open government approach and to use digital communication channels to conduct command and also provide reliable information to all our citizens. I think this enable us to govern very well and smoothly in times of this pandemic.
Very interesting thought. Thank you, Dr. Sangha, and extremely interesting. And I want to actually come to you, Dr. Kajal, because the complexity, while the Aizawl has a single city and a state which somehow got protected from the migrant laborers also moving in, UP, on contrast, is extremely wide. Okay, so it's extremely wide, 10 cities, smart cities from that standpoint, as well as multiple other cities, influx of migrants, and now the outbound migrants to Punjab and Haryana. So there's whole complexity. How's UP as a state managing and using technology now?
First of all, thank you so much for your question, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, I agree with you that UP is a very, very complex state. It's big, huge, big population. We have our own challenges. But I'll start by saying that it's a famous quote that the magic of new beginnings, is disguised in our struggles. So let us see it as an opportunity. And I would say there's no dearth of innovations that have been done by all the state governments, and I'm sure all my colleagues are working very, very hard and providing all these innovations to make better, provide better service delivery. But if you ask me, technology alone is enough? No, I won't say that alone it is enough to handle any sort of scenarios. I totally agree that the infrastructure existed, and we have been able to modify it and make it suit to our needs. Like as COVID is so unprecedented, there was so much going on. We were learning on our ways, and still learning how is it changing its course and what needs to be done. So I believe that that human minds that have been using these technologies and the astute use of this technology has been the key. And keeping our infrastructure and our technology very adaptive and flexible to the needs as it is evolving has been very fundamental to our survival. So yes, UP has been learning along its way, and we have been providing we are using a lot of different technologies and trying to do the integration of various apps, various database that are available to us, so that we can reduce the resource exploitation, and we are able to provide a more seamless kind of service delivery to the people. I mean, it's very challenging, but at the same time, I would say that we are learning along the way as we are progressing forward. That's my take on that.
Thanks, Dr. Kajal. And I'll definitely come back on how the cities are sharing their information and data. So I'm very intrigued because the complexity of the state is pretty high. I'll come to you, Dr. Pani, and while we heard the two states, Mizoram and UP, small and the big, Gujarat in a very different way was actually suddenly the number of the COVID incidents started increasing exponentially. So it's after Maharashtra it started happening, but we haven't heard too much about Surat. So we always had Ahmedabad as the one city, a lot of cases. But how Surat is doing? Is that technology helping you out in any way, or it's not the command center in technology? So got to hear from you.
It's so good evening. It's better that Surat is not heard. That is a better thing for all of us. In fact, Surat, from very beginning, in fact, people, more than 5,500 people from 97 countries, they came, and in fact, after that, the first case of Gujarat was from Surat. And now today, 2,700 cases, active cases are around 751. In fact, we started the COVID-19 tracker here, and it was later on adopted by the entire state. And COVID-19 tracker was initially, it was tracking the people who came from foreign shores, and after that it was used for tracking the quarantine people who are home quarantine. And now this COVID-19 tracker is tracking the people who are getting home-based treatment in their homes. That is one. Second, in fact, now the time is not for tracking alone, but also surveillance and the management of ARI cases in the field. In fact, in Surat, we have another very beautiful software called Gemini, which was initially used for the, VVDC thing, vector-borne diseases surveillance. And now it is being used, Gemini is being used for the COVID things. For example, whoever has a symptom, we are asking the doctors to mention it in the software. And once they mention it, basically in Gujarat, mostly people go to private practitioners, family doctors, general practitioners. Now, once they go to a private practitioner and he has to mention, as per Epidemic Diseases Act, he has to mention that. And once he mentions that, the ball starts rolling. And that is one part of the solution, that is through technology. But the other solution is that we have door-to-door surveillance going on. We have PHC-based surveillance going on. And most importantly, we have instituted around 67 fever clinics, which are mobile. We are calling them Sanjeevani Raths. And they have doctors, they have ANMs, and they have pharmacists. And the initial thing, the door-to-door surveillance, the manual door-to-door surveillance is linked with the fever clinics, the mobile fever clinics, which we call the Sanjeevani Raths. And that is how the entire thing is managed. The overall, as a part of future preparedness, we have, we have made a beautiful hospital out of a multi-level parking. In fact, that was done 2 months before when there were almost 10 cases. But that multi-level parking is now a great hospital with oxygen facility, with BiPAP, ventilators, and nursing homes, and everything together. In fact, that is a kind of preparation. Gujarat, by and large, as you know, always does well as far as innovative governance is concerned. And in fact, these things have been done in Surat, and there are a lot more, but I think I will not go into details of many other things. But these are some of the things that, apart from COVID, what is very important is non-COVID. We have ensured from very beginning that where treatment is available, people should not die of that. So initially, from very beginning, we made one COVID hospital, and the other government hospital was used for non-COVID purposes, so that poor people should always get, good facilities with low-cost model, which is provided by the government. And apart from that, the other important priority was also pre-monsoon arrangements. Other priorities were also Nisarg cyclone was there, and it was about to strike Surat. Fortunately, we got saved, and it took turn towards Mumbai. In fact, there were a lot of challenges that we faced in the past 2-3 months. It was a question of financial management of urban local bodies, because our entire force was on the COVID management, but we didn't forget about the financial aspect, because for a city like Surat, we have to pay 100 crores for the salary of our employees. So our focus was also there on the employee, how to get the finances. So the property tax was ongoing. Another very important thing which is very relevant for Surat was migrant laborers management. In fact, out of 10 lakh who migrated from Gujarat, 7 lakh were from the city of Surat. And, we gave food for 15 lakh of migrant laborers for initial 4 lockdowns, that is 64 days. And it costs more than hundreds of crores for the funding. In fact, this was done with the participation of community, participation of people. And in fact, you won't believe, around 50,000 women of Surat city were giving 5 or 2 or 10 more rotis. They cooked 2 rotis. Whoever has whatever capacity, they cooked more rotis, and they gave 2.5 lakhs rotis were collected every day from these women. And then we added the sabji, and it was distributed to the migrant laborers.
It does it.
In fact,
he brought the social aspect of the city also together.
So there were several. It was very hectic. It was very, but when we speak of governance, I think a lot of things are not available to the people to know what these people do day and night. In fact, they toil day and night, and they serve the people wherever they are.
Yeah. That's really inspiring, Dr. Pani. And with this, I'll come.
By the way, I'm not doctor. In COVID situation, if you call a bureaucrat as a doctor, in fact, he is a doctor because he speaks and he thinks like a doctor, but not a doctor.
I'm so sorry for that. But let me actually come from Surat, one large city, to another large city, Rajcherable, Chennai. Yes, I think it was yesterday's news. It's actually into the lockdown again. How are you coping up with this pandemic, and how is technology giving any breather to you during this tough time?
Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity. I think technology, like everybody else said, is obviously very important, especially in Indian conditions where things are pretty chaotic, as you can see. Imagine suddenly officials have to go and collect data from like all kinds of places. And I can see even people coming to my own house with pen and paper and then transferring that data from there to Excel spreadsheet and then Excel spreadsheet to something else. So interestingly, what I found was that more than what you may see in a James Bond movie of or advanced city command and control, I think what has impressed me is the way we have been able to evolve creating technology on the go. So for example, whether it's corporation of Greater Chennai Corporation's IT staff, or there have been a lot of volunteers, there have been a lot of social fellows and so on and so forth, who are able to scramble and create apps, create data collection mechanism, etc. Because this is not like something we've seen before, and I'm sure there are softwares available out there in the world, but a lot of the work has been creating software on the go to say, okay, how. And then, for example, sometimes you will have 2-3 different software, 2-3 different data sitting around. There's confusion about that, but then again, scrambling to make sure that the data gets integrated and so on. So I think more than data, what has impressed me is the fact that the city's physical human infrastructure. See, technology and data obviously helps, and it is no substitute for that. But what is obvious watching Chennai is that the Chennai went through some serious disasters in the last few years. Chennai floods was one unbelievably. When I was here, and I just couldn't believe that something like that could be happening. Then we had the Varda, the cyclone, and you can see that the staff of the corporation, staff of various other government agencies are mentally trained to deal with this. Even though COVID is a completely different situation, it all comes down to, again, very similar things, like how do you take care of the migrant laborer, how do you house them, again, you sometimes have to scramble to figure out where can you house them, for example, or where do you set up field hospitals? And then, for example, do you go ask for schools and various other facilities or a parking lot, for example, like the Surat Commissioner was saying, multi-level car park suddenly becoming a hospital. So these kinds of scrambling, if the city doesn't have the physical human resource experience, no technology can help. And I think that's somewhere I think we need to probably focus more in the future. The fire drills, like in schools and companies, they have, IT companies have fire drills. And when you're doing fire drills, it may sound silly that, somebody whistles and then you go and stand in the parking lot and somebody will talk to you over a big headphone. But I think those kinds of things, unfortunately for Chennai, there has been 2 disasters so that city is used to. Without that, I think the city may not know what to do. And we can see on the ground that staff is ready. Also, like the Surat Commissioner said, the amount of hard work and frontline work that the Greater Chennai Corporation and other staff do is just stunning. It's amazing. Even when everybody is panicking and staying at home, the staff is able to not only get to offices and get to places, but also kind of in this kind of a tense situation, they're able to keep cool and then go ahead and do what is required. So I think the technology is one part of it. I'm sure we have a long way to go. We need far more technology, whether it's surveillance, disease surveillance, and tomorrow who knows what other, and do all these kinds of fire drills in the city. And because of the police is involved, the Chennai Corporation is involved, Metro Water is involved. I mean, all kinds of people, national, state, and city level is involved. So I think along with technology also, I think what I'm observing is that need to help us do those dry runs and kind of figure out, okay, where are we weak, where are we strong, what kind of infrastructure is missing when you actually do a dry run, or in a serious on the ground situation like this. Long way to go. Still long way to go, but I'm pretty impressed with how we are able to rise up to the occasion.
Very interesting. I think you added really well point, which is the individual intellectual, the citizens of the city, actually their passion towards the city also drives a lot of this. And I'm 100% sure your role as the Chief Resilience Officer, as the previous role at Rockefeller Foundation, would have actually helped you out here in designing the response.
See, again, like I said, it's a city that responds, right? As much as individual responsibilities are there, like for example, the commissioner has a lot of experience, various other officials you can experience having dealt with other problems. So obviously individual experience do come handy, but for a city of, I don't know how many million people we are, and the migrants coming in, migrants coming out, and all kinds of other dynamic situation happening, I think institutions, the more and more I look at it, I realize more and more the institutions matter. And the strengthening of institutions through technology process is what we need to focus on in the future. Right now, the focus has been an app or something that is going to help, and obviously it has helped tremendously. But we are still, I think, weak when it comes to the institutional software, backbone, institutional net. What makes an institution run efficiently? In a non-COVID situation, we would have talked about things like common ticketing and this and that. As simple as doing manual stuff, automating it, and making life easy for the citizen and the government employee. But in terms of pandemic and emergency situations, how do you get the people to become more efficient, focus on the problem, and let all the other peripheral issues become automated in that sense? The things that you do on a normal day, you don't want to be doing during a pandemic. So those kinds of things are still missing in our systems from what I can see. That was there before COVID, and that is will be there for some time with us. But I think we need to now step up and start thinking along those lines.
Thanks, Raj. So Amit, can I come to you? And while we heard government officials and people who are driving the cities and the states talking about how it needs to be taken, from a micro focus standpoint, what is that the international learnings that we can actually capture from your side and share it with others?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, NSN, for having me here. Internationally, we are doing a lot with respect to reaching out to our customers. We have about 40,000 customers and a few hundred municipal corporations or city administrations to whom we have reached out. But the first thing we did, which was in our control, in our hand, was to make all our tools available to them free of cost for a finite period, but to respond to the challenge of what COVID poses. So it's a contribution to the society that we have made as a first gesture, that any organization related to human or citizen service across the world, if they are getting challenged with respect to any kind of infrastructure challenge or any application challenge which can be addressed through using our tool for obviously for a finite period of responding, to be able to respond to this particular pandemic, we've made these tools available free of cost to them. That's the first and possibly the easiest thing one can do for society. What we've also done is that, ma'am is here from UP, and, Agra Smart City has been a classic, case when during the times of the very severe lockdown, the Agra Smart City, ICCC became, COVID response center, and they leveraged, the entire ICCC for responding to the pandemic in terms of GIS-based tracking of containment zones, or tracking any kind of mass gathering anywhere, and publishing a list of grocery stores across the cities, which so that people are not perturbed. A lot was done in terms of turning the ICCC to a control center for the city administration, which helped them respond better. It was visibly noted by the health ministry and made as a reference for other state governments to take care of. And Agra Smart City does have an underlying infrastructure monitoring and a couple of other tools being used from our side, because we are a finite organization providing certain solutions to the society. Similarly, for Dehradun Smart City, they are using they just gone live as a smart city about a few months back, but they are leveraging the entire ICCC as a security and surveillance monitoring mechanism for extended hospitals, where 4 or 5 city hospitals have been onboarded as part of the surveillance solution. They are also using the control center as a centralized mechanism. So in bits and pieces, we've done our bit, and we are looking forward to making ourselves available to the call wherever we get to hear from any of the administrations on the call here, or otherwise as well. So we are reaching out to our customer base and responding to whatever we can in terms of making our solutions available for serving citizens in this hour of crisis.
So I'll just do a stretch question on this, Amit. I'm very intrigued by the work you're doing in Agra, because we have heard a lot of good work which is going on in Agra. Any of your tools can actually help the city in terms of the AI part of it, the artificial intelligence, and kind of doing the advanced analytics and identifying all the stuff. So is there any use cases you have built? Probably a very quick one we can discuss.
We're in the process of building one for responding to this situation, but what I can clearly tell you is that we have we have a fantastic amount of tools which are being used by people like Uber, people like Apple, for responding to their customer bases, and similar technologies we are in the process of building as we speak, because obviously things take some time. But one thing that which can be readily available, which is that the usage of applications or mobile applications for delivering citizen service to the citizens, as well as for the citizens using those services coming from the mobile applications or through internet, has gone multifold. And there may be challenges for the city to respond, because those applications have not been built for such a heavy traffic, right? There may be challenges in terms of making those applications respond to the way they need to respond. For example, if a citizen service application in a city or in a state was experiencing 5,000 hits hypothetically in a day, suddenly during COVID it has gone to 25,000 or 40,000, because still India is a very high touch country. People still want to go to a counter for depositing something or paying their bills or whatever. So we have solutions where we can test the resilience of those applications to make sure that those applications are behaving properly and the citizens are being served. So that's one clear use case which is being which can be delivered, and which we are delivering also to a few of our customers. So there are multiple ways. Similarly, for infrastructure management solution that we give, because everything is happening online today. There's hardly any face-to-face interactions. There's a whole lot of traffic at the back end and in the infrastructure which has been put together in ICCC or any other state data centers or for SWAN data centers for that matter, which is being effectively monitored by a solution. So in a way, all from all around and from all the corners, there are ways and means, and we are addressing them to the best we can and helping the society.
Thanks, Amit. That's really nice. I'll come to Ms. Garima Mittal. How's Faridabad doing? Again, similar to Suraj, it's not in very much in the news, and I'm hope that's a good part of it. But is there a border with Delhi being an issue, and how are you managing the traffic inflow and outflow? How the quarantine management happening in Faridabad? So is technology being used? So your point of view on that?
Yeah, thank you, Murthy for giving me this opportunity. And yes, see, you have a very pertinent question there because we share a border with New Delhi. So let me tell you, we have multiple entry and exit points, and there we have the surveillance cameras. And in our ICCC, basically right now we're doing surveillance. So from the day one, when the lockdown started, we had 3 shifts of police personnel in our office, in our ICCC, and they were monitoring the lockdown. So in fact, the traffic movement was monitored. And as you asked a question on artificial intelligence, we had analytics and we had 6 to 7 alerts regarding the gatherings that were happening. So we were using the best of the technology that was available to us. And it was very effective in the initial lockdown. And yes, the traffic from the Delhi and from Gurgaon was well monitored. But there are 3 things how I like to frame my my wordings in here. First of all, I think technology is just a tool. So in the case of epidemic, when it's an emergency, we don't look forward to replace the whole system and go only by technology. So our idea has been at Faridabad just to bridge the gaps and to add value. So wherever we think the manual system is working well, we have not tried to replace it. Though we have all the dashboards coming in and, as Mr. Amit has very well said that it was all free of cost and Cisco, Quantenna, people, they were approaching us through the government of India. In fact, that was the best part. It's very difficult sometimes to approach the private people per se by the smart city, but if it comes through the joint secretary, through a DO letter, it's very easy for us to contact. So all the dashboards were there. So, see, we have not utilized the technology per se to replace the manual things. But now that Faridabad is seeing the volumes increasing, in last 2 to 3 days, we have seen that a manual system is not working very well, especially in the call center, where we have to give a first call as in the first contact tracing, and thereafter multiple calls from the PHC also goes. So now we're looking for a call center through Quantella and Cisco, and they have an Innovare Inc. kind of an app, and that we'll be utilizing, and hopefully that will streamline our system. Thirdly, I always felt that having the smart city in place helped us to take everything from learning to meetings to trainings online, as in we had lots of web meetings. So the social distancing was never an issue. And in fact, from our PMC, most of the experts, they went to their own cities like Lucknow, Hyderabad. So we continued to have their inputs and very valuable inputs, in fact, when they were away. So learnings were there, meetings were there. In fact, in Smart City, we had a series of webinars. And some of these webinars were, in fact, with the World Economic Forum. So we had the international experiences also pouring in. So it was very nice to hear from Korea, when the epidemic was at peak at Korea, what were they doing? How were they opening up? What's happening in US? What is the view of WEF? And, it was a great learning. Sometimes in government, we don't have this real-time learnings. So through Smart City, that was actually coming in. I think that energized our system. So overall, I like to, when I give you the gist of what I want to say is we are not actually looking forward to replace everything with the technology. It's the tool. Where we need it, we should use it basically for adding value and for bridging the gap. And when the volumes are low, yes, our Indian system, our basic system of manual working, it is actually good. And but when the volumes are high, we find the strain coming up. And we have to put things in place, streamline it. So, we really require technology. And Faridabad is in the process of actually streamlining the bed management system through the Quantela app. Quantela, they have lots of dashboards, but we don't look forward like Agra or Bangalore to use all the dashboards. I have specifically using just the bed management part because we are in the initial part of the curve. So slow and steady, let's see whatever is the requirement, we'll bridge it through the technology. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is very interesting note. So, Chetanji, I'll come to you. The Rajkot has always been doing a lot of innovative stuff, including working with the startups also. So, anything innovative and using the technology, how's the Rajkot is running this? So, is the startups also engaged in the process?
No. Rajkot had already a ICCC in place 2 years back. And the architect of the ICCC is Dharon Panel, Pani sir. Previously, he was with Rajkot.
Yes.
So he did a lot of hard work. In fact, he has visited more than 1,000 places to verify the position of all 1,000 cameras. And he has laid the foundation of ICCC brick by brick. So that ICCC was really helpful in 3 things. One was the COVID tracker app, as he mentioned. We modified that app to suit our local conditions. Another problem for Rajkot was more than 60% of the cases came from a single hotspot, came from a single area. So we needed to have a sampling application in place just to ensure that other parts of the city are non-infected. So we developed an in-house GIS-based tracking system, whereby every day we used to monitor the samples being taken in the city, which are positive and which are negative. That helped really to manage the sampling part of it. Third part was managing the monitoring the lockdown. Now the ICCC is shared by police and municipal corporation both. So police and corporation both were tracking, and it really helped in tracking the hotspot, which had more than 60% of the cases, because that area was not a slum, bit better than a slum, but was having a density of more than 4 times the regular density of the city. So ensuring lockdown in that part was really challenging, but special cameras really helped us to monitor the effective lockdown.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think it's a really good ROI on the investment, technology infrastructure investment done. So that's great. Srinivas, I'll come to you. Karnataka has been in the news for various reasons. It happens to be one of the first states who actually lifted up the lockdown in most of the places. Bangalore turned out to be the model implementation for COVID war room. So UP and Karnataka are fighting a tough battle with each other on who's the best state delivering the right solution. So how are you actually taking it? Is there any directive at the state level that these are the set of solutions, technology, processes that needs to be standardized across the cities? Is there anything what all the KDFC and the state government and the cities are doing? So thought of hearing from you. Yeah.
Good evening. I am filling in for Ms. Charulata Somal, the State Mission Director of Karnataka. So as you rightly pointed out, Mr. Murthy, Bangalore has been leading the way for the COVID initiative in Karnataka. So in Bangalore, we have put up an effort to set up a war room on a pro bono basis, wherein the public and private partnership have ensured that this war room has come up within a short period of 48 hours. So we started from there. So what we have done in our war room is we are tracking the patients, we are tracking the quarantine people, we are tracking the on-site construction workers, and also we are tracking the monitoring of this distribution of food. But as Ms. Garima was telling, we are already also using our huge number of ASHA volunteers and other health warriors to do the ground level survey, which is actually being converted into a verifiable data and validated and then put into our dashboard so that the decision making is effective. So apart from this, in our state, as you are asking, as a policy perspective, the government of Karnataka has put in number of task forces under the leadership of senior IAS officers. Like for one of the task force, I have a IAS officer, Mr. Triloka Chandra, who is also a doctor by profession. So he has been under the leader of the critical care unit. So under him, we have a set of doctors, about 12 to 15 numbers of them, who will be present in the war room in order to guide the fever clinics, which have been set up in Bangalore. We have about 32 fever clinics which has been set up in Bangalore. So they will be giving this support from the war room in terms of advice and the prescriptions which can be done in those fever clinics. Similarly, we have a team set up for the drugs logistics, the supply and transportation of the drugs to various districts of Karnataka. So we have a team working on that. Similarly, we have 2 to 3 task force in the health department. One is a health, which is a vigilance task force, which main duty is to track these quarantine people so that they are in the loop, so that they don't move out within the specified area. So many of these task forces are actually complementing each other in the efforts of efficient and effective tracking of this COVID situation. So if you ask me, in the infrastructure part, actually we have come up in one of the cities of Mangalore. Within a short span of 30 days, we have created a 37-bedded ICU in Mangalore for tackling this COVID situation. So which has been put in place within a very short span of time and is being used by the district administration for tracking of this COVID patient and treating the COVID patient. And elsewhere in a city like Tumkur, I'm using this technology of drone surveillance for effective management of my crowd management, as well as prediction. In Bangalore war room, we are also trying this predictive modeling based on some mathematical modeling techniques, so that we can know as to when the numbers would peak or as to what would be the strategy to adopt to tackle this COVID situation. And apart from this, we have already supported the city administration in Belagavi by giving sophisticated or well-equipped ambulances. And in the second phase of the COVID situation initiatives, we are looking for the cities to enroll on the e-health initiative. We have a e-health management system which has been rolled out by the state health department. So we are planning to roll out that into our smart city initiatives to integrate into our ICC command and control center, so that we can leverage the technology into a better management of COVID situation. And we are also looking at augmenting the hospital equipments in terms of high flow oxygen systems, or in terms of ventilators, or putting up ICU units in the hospitals of various smart cities, which has been designated as COVID hospitals in those cities. So these are the few initiatives which I think we are trying to put in place, and we are also trying to expand these initiatives, diversify these initiatives in a better way to handle the situation in the coming days. I think that's it, Murthy.
Thank you, Srinivas. So last but not the least on the set of panels, and why I kept it at the last is Delhi is the most complex. Everyone knows that it's multiple different administrations, multiple authorities, and also the eye of the entire politics out there. So Rashmi ma'am, how are you managing it, and how are you actually driving this multiplicity of authority? And I think governance is something which is required at the Delhi.
In fact, I was wondering that why is Delhi coming the last, but you've given the answer, and I appreciate that. And I think that 1 hour that I spent here was probably the time when I could also reflect, because the whole day we have actually been grappling with a lot of these challenges, hands-on. And right now, like looking at converting one of our hospitals into a COVID hospital, the Hindu Rao, which the North MCD is running, has been declared now to become a COVID hospital, which meant a lot of preparations, to ensure that we, actually meet all the norms, and where the use of technology, as one of the speakers just before me was talking about, in hospital management, in patient management, now it takes you to like simple things like having a digital display of how many beds are available. So I think when we talk about technology, it's also very important, to look at it in terms of, something where it's not that there are huge costs involved, simple things, but there are tools available in which you can improve the flow of communication, information, and connect. I think one of the biggest things today is this need to connect, need to, have a seamless flow of information between the government. When you say governance, I think that is where the huge challenge today is. That is the information flow happening on a real-time basis, within one organization itself, within the various layers, within an organization, and then the interagencies, which are involved to have a multi-pronged response, which is inevitable. Across spectrum, it is inevitable. Be it the police, be it the hospital management, the public health care, the education establishment, many of our schools, many of our teachers, they have been also deployed to, to just manage the feeding centers, to manage the distribution of dry ration. So again, there are whole layers involved. There's this PDS system involved. There are people coming knocking, at the schools. Has a ration come? They might come the next day again, but is there a seamless flow of information? So I think this time it challenges us even more in a situation, in a pandemic like this, where the challenges are huge to respond, in two ways. One is emergency response. When we talk about hunger, it can't wait. So there has to be immediate responses. Now, the best way is like, how do we make sure that, we are mapping our resources rightly, be it whichever department it is. Have we mapped our resources, and are we putting those resources to use effectively to help the last mile? Be it a patient, be it somebody who needs the supply of your PDS ration, be it somebody who needs cooked food. So mapping the need and the supply is one of our foremost challenges, because when we talk of pandemic situation, we are normally looking at those affected by COVID, directly in terms of whether you are detected positive or negative or suspect. But there are a whole lot of other people, whose, I think, even livelihood is affected. Yeah. So, how do you actually map the various kinds of vulnerability and then make sure that you have the schemes? I mean, and one of the big challenges in governance, in my view, is that we have schemes, we have programs, but again, to ensure the access to the last mile, to ensure that the delivery is happening to those who need it in an efficient manner, in a timely manner, that is the biggest challenge for all of us. And again, the biggest challenge is that, how we are able to coordinate the responses. So now coming back to technology and the simple tools, a simple tool, like even WhatsApp today, is a huge way forward, because I've seen the number of groups which have been working day and night, to be able to exchange information on a real-time basis again. So, but, when there's overdose of information, the big challenge is again, like, can we deploy it like even more intelligently? So when we look at a scenario where the ICC concept works, the integrated control and command, for me, it's not just control and command, but also way of utilizing all the information which is coming to you, which, like, whatever name we take, data analytics or predictive analytics. But I mean, all of us are aware that there are tools available, but how do we deploy those tools to ensure that today, if we are capturing an information, it is also available tomorrow. So how intelligently are we grappling with this information? Now today, with the migrants, going back, say from Delhi, people who are going back to many of the states, I come from Bihar. Now, there are cases where the skill mapping is being done, or in Uttar Pradesh, I'm aware that, okay, besides the skill mapping, the linkages, can they be provided with the source of livelihood in terms of their linkage to, say NREGA over there, or to other schemes. So I'm just talking about the whole opportunity, which today we have to look at in a forward-looking manner. So one is, okay, immediate response. But, within government, like now, all of us, I think, have to be prepared, to have a future strategy also ready. That has to be in place. Now, in terms of my experience of, again, deploying technology here, like, again, simple things like, okay, children, we run number of schools, all the municipalities would be, like primary schools. So how do we, make their learning, in a manner in which the teachers, and the parents and the children, can be assisted together, to ensure that the learning happens. You can't just make the children idle away their time. For example, we have like whole lot of these Ayush centers. So, we came up with an idea that, okay, let us have a concept of telecounseling, where people can, generally vent out their, I would say, not just frustration, but, apprehensions. There are like a whole lot of these apprehensions, that uncertainty, which bogs down people, and people have all kinds of symptoms, which by talking to, counselors, by talking to health professionals, it can probably, become a better, healthier living for them. So we encourage this thing about, okay, a lot of webinars happening, our doctors also being, encouraged, say the Ayush team encouraged to just reach out, healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, what it amounts to. Yeah, it really needs. And again, no dearth of information, but nothing like having a personalized information flow. So, the helplines, which work to be able to connect to somebody who says that, well, I'm having this problem. Now you tell me what I can do, what I can eat. So that kind of, facility being, so we need to actually customize our requirement to map the needs of the various segments, the children, the elderly, the specially able, the Divyang, their needs. And I think the more the mapping is done, the more the information storage, retrieval, analytics is applied, the better is the response. And I would also say that in small things like, sanitization. Now, Delhi, of course, everybody is aware about the magnitude of the problem. We are all aware about the number of containment zones. Now, the households which feel insecure, and they feel like the team is coming to sanitize the environment. Now, how do you do that? You don't have that many number of people. You don't have that many people who will brave it and risk it all. So, there are ways. We applied drones for sanitization. That was another use of technology to do that. And then again, like CCTVs, even in the drones, we were getting like, feeders to tell us like, what's happening in that area. Are people coming out? Yeah, or there are people who are like during the lockdown, they're staying inside. So information gathering through tools has been one of the primary ways, in which then, in terms of our connect with citizens, applications to be encouraged more in online way, even digital payments, say birth and death certificate, for which number of people used to throng to our, the DCs who man the various, districts and in the zonal offices. So most of the people thronging were coming for birth and death certificate. So, this is the time when we said that, yes, let us have digital online applications. Let us develop payment gateways, which were not there in place. For property tax, again, like encouraging digital mode. So I think we are focusing more during this time than we did ever before. But I think we need to all do much more. And it's a good platform this way. And Mr. Murthy is also, assured that he'll be, supporting some of the digital, opportunities for better governance and, mapping and, mapping the needs, and solutions together, which he's probably doing with some of the municipal bodies, through the PwC. So I think we should all look at these, new models, out of the box solutions, because we have been challenged like never before. So, it's important to look for solutions, which can be not just contemporary for the day, but even, in times to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Always there to help everyone, ma'am. So this actually is the first set of discussion between all the panelists, and I think we got various amount of information and data points. And I'm just looking at the clock. We have 10 more minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the tack a little bit, and I'm going back to my famous thing that I'll give 60 seconds to everyone to respond very quickly. I'm doing the clock. So I'll go to I'll start with Ms. Garima, with you, Faridabad, and one specific agenda or one specific area that you want to actually address it in next 30, 60 days, because the lockdown unlock 1.0 is coming to a kind of a ending, and then unlock 2.0 will start. So what is that you are going to, what is the prime agenda for you in the next 30, 60 days?
Yeah, thank you. I have a very, as in for the whole administration, I will say we have clarity as in what is our focus. We have just two focuses. First is that we are getting the lab data through the ICMR site, and that portal is not matching with our state portal. So we need to sort it out, as in people are getting tested in Faridabad, but they are sometimes from Palwal, sometimes from Delhi, sometimes from Gurgaon. So we should know how many people are actually from Faridabad, what is our patient load, and how we should go about our projections. So that will be our first focus. The baseline data should be true to the ground reality. That is our first focus. Second focus is very clear, as you said, that we are not in the news and we should not be in the news for the negative reasons. So we should have a bed management policy in place. We are in the process of making a complete plan for around 10,000 beds. And that brings us to have different, what we're going to use, that we are not going to reinvent the wheel. Very simple and straightforward. We are putting everything we learned in elections in place, because our system knows it, our teachers knows it, our staff knows it, our tehsildar knows it. So simply we will make nodal officers for COVID care centers, for the dedicated COVID health centers. Everything has been delineated. Nodal officers, WhatsApp groups, and it will be a complete bed management plan that we will have, which will include a communication plan as we have in the elections, meetings as we have in the elections, just that.
More than many. So these are many. Okay, so there are many initiatives you are taking, and I think.
So they are basically two. So yes. One is the ground truthing of the base data, and second is the bed management plan. So no one says that no bed was available for it.
Perfect. Dr. Kajal, I'll come to you second. Data sharing has been highlighted as one of the most important things. One of the important things that Dr. Rashmi said. How are you doing the data sharing between the cities?
I have like a different approach here. I would say I always see through a system-wide thinking, system-wide lens. I always apply that because I always think of the long term and to be able to do at that level. So one of my seniors always, one thing I have learned is about data, which is a lead player here, is that data is something, if it is not, you don't have the insight into it, you don't extract the relevance of it, then it is merely garbage in and garbage out. Right? That is how we see it. So for me, I particularly see that the data has to be shared, as Garima said, that they are dealing, everybody else is mentioning about the challenges that we face while we get a load of data coming to us. I believe we really need to work on the open, portal system, data portal system, where it is accessible to the people and that the people can use their own algorithms and they run and assess the trends and patterns into it. So I believe that is something I would be working upon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Raj, any one single app you can think of for Chennai? One single app which is very, very important for you?
No, it's actually a lot of apps. That's the problem. I think a lot of it's very difficult to say one, because there's so much happening in so many different areas. And I always, like a lot of the other people said, some of the things I would, in the long term or even medium term, is not post-COVID. We need to start thinking what did we learn from all this and learn from earlier disasters. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of the speakers, when I read between the lines, what I'm realizing is that it is not the fancy technology that is missing. It is the day-to-day stuff, whether it's pandemic or not. The day-to-day efficiency of the system is what is, I think, a lot of engineers and officials are struggling with. how do we bring in simple systems that a private company would have, which a government system may not have? Those kinds of things were available even pre-pandemic. I would say that we should immediately get into those where whether it's bed management, hospital bed management, or anything else for that matter that should have existed before pandemic. We should go on a war footing and get them done.
Dr. Sangam, my question was to you for Mizoram. Is there anything specifically, because it's a state which is looking at it, is Aizawl and the state, you are doing something which is, I know bed management and hospital management, these are very important, but non-COVID, anything you are working on the technology side of it, is that something which you can talk?
Yeah, actually, as far as Mizoram is concerned, Mizoram is a small state, so data sharing is not really a problem. But I think what is important right now is strengthening digital readiness at all levels at the state, district, and at the local level. When we talk about technology for strengthening public service delivery and also managing supply chain, etc., I think we are not talking about replacing manual public service delivery, but I think we are talking about strengthening public service delivery, making it more reliable, making it more safer, making it more stable and accurate, and of course, making it more cost effective. I think that would be a main concern right now.
Fantastic. So we are almost at the fag end. So so before we close, I just wanted to hear Amit. I just last 30 seconds, if you can tell. Is there, so the tools you have spoken about, the work you are doing, is there anything which you can actually talk about to any of these panelists you want to actually talk about, that what tool can be offered to them? A specific one tool, it could be a data sharing tool or an AI tool or a command center which others can benefit from. You heard bed management, hospital management, migrant, labor management, employment, food, multiple use cases out here. It's a rich collage of use cases that you've heard today. So one of this, do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. Possible 30 seconds are not enough, but still I'll try and wrap it up by saying that data in, data out, garbage in, intelligence out is something that is being looked at. We have the tools. You know, as you just asked me a little while ago, we have analytics tools which will help you make sense of the data that you have, and there is truckloads of data that we have. And now the time when we are, you know, possibly peaking now, and a month from now is when we hear from WHO authorities and other people. We have the tools to make sense of the data, so please reach out to us, and I'll make sure that our team reach out to you and to the wider audience who are hearing us today. That's one. Second, as I mentioned earlier, that you are delivering services through electronic means these days, and any problem on the resilience or the scalability of your applications, because the user experience, coming to think of it on a mobile phone or on a desktop or a laptop, if an application is not responding properly for 5 to 10 seconds, the user moves out. So for providing rich experience for citizens delivery, service delivery to the citizens, if you feel any of your applications is challenged, reach out to us. Those are the two, I think, basic things, apart from a lot of other things that we do, will make a lot of sense in today's times where the citizens are challenged with respect to time and with respect to resources available at their hand. So these two things top of the mind.
Perfect. And we just said the last 15-20 seconds. So thank you so much. That if time was another 30 minutes, I could have actually gone and spoken much more. But this was a really good discussion and a lot of use cases. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.